Thank you, Minister. That concludes general questions. Our next item of business is First Minister's questions, and I call Russell Finlay, question number 1.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. The safety net of social security is something that we all value, but Scotland's towering benefits bill stands at around £7 billion and is due to reach £10 billion almost by the end of the decade. I've said it before and I'll say it again, benefit spending is out of control. We know that it is unfair, unaffordable and unsustainable. Does John Swinney agree, or does he think that the SNP's benefit system is fair, affordable and sustainable?
First Minister.
I think the approach the Scottish Government takes to benefits is based on the principles of fairness and dignity, which this Parliament legislated for. Yep. I am proud to associate my government with those values that are enshrined in statute. I believe the benefits system in Scotland is sustainable, and that is demonstrated by the ability of this government to ensure effective budget planning to meet all of these commitments. And I make no apology whatsoever for being determined to protect the vulnerable in our society and to lift children out of poverty. That's what my government is all about.
Russell Finlay.
He's in a state of denial. It's not, it is not sustainable. Just this morning, the Scottish Fiscal Commission told the Parliament the only way to plug the benefits gap is either through higher taxes or from cutting money from public services. John Swinney can't admit it, but the SNP's benefit system is broken. And it's deeply concerning that in some cases it acts as a deterrent to work. The Government's own review of the Scottish Child Payment revealed that some parents turned down extra work or stopped working altogether, and in some cases they even told their boss that they didn't want a pay rise. And the reason? It's because extra pay would reduce their benefits, meaning they would end up with less money. We say that limiting the payment to 2 children per family is a fair way to address this.
Let us hear,
surely people
colleagues.
Should be
let us hear
off,
one another. Let's hear Mr. Finlay.
People would be better off working than being on benefits. Yeah. Is John Swinney really content with a system that encourages people to turn down a pay rise?
First Minister.
Presiding Officer, the Government's approach to eradicating child poverty involves a number of measures, one of which is about putting in place effective support for employability measures to enable parents to get into employment. The measures in the budget also support that by providing wraparound childcare and breakfast clubs so that we can ensure that more parents can get into employment, because I want to see more parents getting into employment so that their families can be lifted out of poverty. But what I will not do, what I am absolutely determined my government will never do, is punish the vulnerable in our society. And Russell Finlay's support for the 2-child cap is a demonstration that the nasty party is back good and proper in the Conservative Party.
Russell Finlay.
Let me read John Swinney a line from his own government's report, which he probably hasn't even read. And this is from someone who spoke to report authors, a parent. I even asked my line manager not to move me up my annual pay award band because it would have meant maybe a £30 to £40 addition to my salary, but it would have cost me around £300 in benefits. Yeah. Encouraging people not to work is absurd and it's harmful. Yeah. But that's not the only problem with the benefit system. The SNP politicians love to boast is light touch, which might explain the following. In the rest of the United Kingdom, an average of 8,000 people every year are prosecuted for benefits fraud. But Social Security Scotland has reported just 29 cases to prosecutors in almost 3 years. Most claimants are honest, but these numbers strongly suggest that fraudsters are exploiting the SNP's light touch system and getting away with it.
Let's hear one another.
Does John Swinney seriously think there have just been 29 cases of benefit fraud in Scotland?
First Minister.
Presiding Officer, the Scottish Government, when we established Social Security Scotland, included measures that are designed to tackle any fraud which is perpetrated within the benefit system. And the development of all of that activity has been pursued by Social Security Scotland with appropriate reference to the Crown Office and the Procurator Fiscal Service when it is appropriate for individuals to be prosecuted. So I accept the importance of ensuring that payments are made only to those who are entitled to the payments, and fraud should be pursued where there is any evidence of fraud. But what, again, I will not do is I will not get into the gutter with Mr Finlay in attacking vulnerable people in our society. This government will ensure there is proper support to vulnerable people as part of our efforts to lift families out of poverty. That's the mission of my government.
Russell Finlay.
John Swinney can hurl all the nonsense insults that he wants. The reality is Scotland cannot afford to pay for the SNP's spiralling benefits bill. To recap, we know that the SNP's light touch system deters work and is wide open to fraud, and that they spend right now over £1 billion more in benefits than they receive in funding. Yet incredibly, Labour and Reform are OK with this. 4 months ago, Audit Scotland said that John Swinney's government has no plan to plug the benefits black hole. There's still no plan, unless John Swinney's maybe keeping it a secret from us.
No, you could tell us today.
Well, we do have a plan. We identify £1 billion. We do have a plan.
Let's hear Mr Finlay.
We identify £1 billion worth of savings that can be achieved through a series of reasonable proposals. These savings would be used to cut taxes for hard-working Scots who are being hammered by Labour and the SNP. Isn't cutting taxes for the lowest paid, not more benefits, the best way to lift people out of poverty?
First Minister.
President Officer, Mr Finlay comes along to First Minister's questions and he sets out his stall, which of course we've now got another chapter of that with the hostile attitude towards vulnerable people in our society, which is consistently represented by the Conservative Party. He also comes along and argues for £1 billion worth of tax cuts for individuals in Scotland without a scrap of evidence of being able to deliver any of those tax cuts, because they will undermine public services in our country.
First Minister, sorry, it would be helpful, colleagues, if we could hear one another. I have a lot of colleagues who'd like to get in today. Let's make sure we can hear one another.
And lastly, Presiding Officer, when it comes to the sustainability of the public finances, I will pay not very much attention to what Mr Finlay says to me. I'll pay more attention to what the credit ratings agencies say about my government. And what they say is that... and what...
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry. If there are members who just want to come and have a good shout, perhaps they need to consider whether their behaviour is appropriate. First Minister.
So, Presiding Officer, I won't listen to what Russell Finlay says to me about the sustainability of the public finances. I will rely on what the credit ratings agencies say, which is that this government represents prudent financial management in Scotland. That's how you deliver sustainability in the public finances, and people can rely on an SNP government to do exactly that.
Thank you. Question number 2, I call Anna Sarwar.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. At the time the Queen Elizabeth University Hospital was opened, Nicola Sturgeon was the First Minister, John Swinney was the Deputy First Minister and Finance Secretary who signed the cheques, and Shona Robeson was the Health Secretary. We now know that the hospital was opened too early and when it was not ready, with devastating consequences, including avoidable infections and deaths. Political pressure was applied to open that hospital. Why did SNP ministers put politics before patient safety?
First Minister.
That was not the case, and the reference for that is what the Counsel to the Inquiry said on the 23rd of January, who said there is no evidence of external pressure on NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde to open the hospital early or before it was ready to be opened.
Yeah, misleading again.
Anna Sarwar.
Presiding Officer, John Swinney is about to regret just saying that, because we know the culture of this SNP government is to avoid putting things in writing so that there is no paper trail. But all it takes is for the guard to slip once. I have here in my hand official Scottish Government meeting notes. These notes, written by a Scottish Government official, relate to a series of meetings held on the 16th of December 2019, the 19th of December 2019 and 10th January 2020. Those meetings involved a Scottish Government official appointed by the then Health Secretary, the Health Board's Director of Facilities and a consultant who had been engaged by NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde to review what went wrong. It states in its findings in black and white, political pressure was also being felt and no consideration was given to delaying the opening of the hospital despite the issues being faced with completion and operation. Political pressure was also being felt. So will John Swinney now tell Parliament why political pressure was being applied to open a hospital that this note also makes clear wasn't ready and led to people dying? Or would he rather answer in the presence of his lawyer?
First Minister.
Well, Presiding Officer, there is an inquiry underway that is exploring all of these issues, which is taking evidence in the presence of Lord Brodie. A properly constituted public inquiry that is exploring all of these issues that are at stake. And the counsel to the inquiry said on the 23rd of January in the summary there is no evidence of external pressure on NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde to open the hospital early or before it was ready to be opened. That's what the counsel to the inquiry has said, and Lord Brodie is obviously considering all of these issues.
Ms Sarwar.
He's been found out, Presiding Officer. This is a minute between a Scottish Government official appointed by the Health Secretary, the Health Board's Director of Facilities and a consultant appointed to look at what happened. And once again, this official Scottish Government minute of that meeting expressly states in black and white political pressure was being felt and no consideration was being given to delaying the opening of this hospital. That is damning. That decision to open the hospital early has resulted in a decade of lies, deceit and cover-up, bullying and gaslighting of staff, families being lied to and denied the truth, and infections that led to the deaths of children and possibly adults too, all because politics was put before patient safety. This evidence is damning. People died. So I asked John Swinney, was it worth it?
First Minister.
President, the issues that I've set on the record already is what the counsel to the inquiry has set out. And as Mr Sarwar knows from previous answers I've given, the Scottish Government was made aware of there being water contamination issues in the hospital was in 2018. The Scottish Government commissioned a public inquiry under the leadership of Lord Brodie, which enables all of these issues to be explored in full. And what that does is that enables the full consideration of all of these issues for the evidence to be assessed and considered and Lord Brodie to report. And that's exactly what he will do.
Question number 3, Alex Cole-Hamilton.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Presiding Officer, last time I told the First Minister about former care worker Margaret McGill, who'd been in hospital for more than 400 nights. She's been unable to get home because the carers that she needs just aren't available. It has now cost the NHS nearly £200,000 to keep her in hospital when she doesn't need or want to be there. 3 weeks on, she is still in hospital in Wick. And Margaret's not alone. This week, we learned that the number of people waiting for a care assessment or for a care package has gone up by 20% in the last year. So can I ask the First Minister, does he really think that his draft budget will fix the crisis in social care and get people like Margaret home?
First Minister.
So the issues around social care are absolutely vital to ensure that we provide the care that people require. We're investing £2 billion in social care and integration, which has increased over the lifetime of the government. And obviously the government's budget includes substantial increases in resources available to local authorities and to health boards as part of the measures that are required to deliver effective social care support. Now, the issue that Mr Cole-Hamilton raised with me previously about Mrs McGill essentially rests upon the availability of personnel to deliver that care. And as I set out to Mr Cole-Hamilton the last time we had exchanges on this question, that issue is significantly affected by the availability of people of working age in areas such as Caithness to deliver such services. And we work closely with the local authority and NHS Highland to do all that we can to support the availability of care staff. And of course, the measures I've taken on access to workers from other countries will help in that respect.
Alex Cole-Hamilton.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. The First Minister knows that we are prepared to vote for his budget if the measures in it are right. We are here to get things done, and the Scottish Liberal Democrats have already secured some big wins through our negotiations on this budget already. Money to back young entrepreneurs, for colleges, for the Northern Isles, removing peak ferry fares, and for faster autism and ADHD assessments. But it is not yet enough to win our support, and we will squeeze every penny we can out of this budget process for business rates, for hospices, for the sake of people like Margaret McGill on social care. So can I ask the First Minister, is his government prepared to go further to win our support?
First Minister.
I'm aware that there are still discussions going on with the Liberal Democrats and with other parties about the budget process. The budget has not yet come to Parliament for Stage 1 consideration, but I would certainly welcome the support of other parties for the budget. It's always been a priority of mine to attract the support of other parties to the government's budget proposals. We successfully did that last year, and Mr Cole-Hamilton has given a long list of many reasons to vote for the Scottish Government's budget, and I confirm that those discussions are still underway.
Question number 4, Willie Coffey.
Thank you. To ask the First Minister how the Scottish Government's new National Housing Agency will support its work to deliver more affordable homes.
First Minister.
So More Homes Scotland's mission is to bring simplicity, scale and speed to Scotland's housing emergency response. It will deliver for a generation of Scots new homes more quickly, more affordably, in more livable, climate-friendly communities. The 2026 draft budget includes the single largest funding allocation to affordable housing since records began in 1989. We have committed to invest up to £4.9 billion over the next 4 years, backed by a record £4.1 billion of public investment, helping to deliver 36,000 affordable homes and providing a place to live for around 24,000 children.
Willie Coffey.
Can I thank the First Minister for that answer? At a time when the cost of living is spiralling under the Labour Party, it's great to hear that the SNP government has taken the action needed to deliver warm, affordable housing for families right across Scotland. Could the First Minister tell us just a little bit more about how the new agency will support first-time buyers?
First Minister.
So the initiative that we're taking on More Homes Scotland will streamline and accelerate the delivery of high-quality, affordable homes. This will ensure more homes will be available across Scotland, including for first-time buyers. Detailed objectives will be set out in due course, and we continue to support home ownership for first-time buyers through a range of interventions. Our low-cost initiative for first-time buyers scheme is helping people on low to moderate incomes buy a home, with 210 purchased through the scheme last year and an estimated 300 homes to be purchased in this financial year.
Megan Gallagher.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I live in hope that this new agency will help deliver the increase in house building that Scotland desperately needs. But history tells us that SNP quangos rarely deliver for Scotland. Almost 2 years ago, this Parliament declared a national housing emergency. Ministers in this chamber promised urgent action. But creating a new housing agency that won't even be operational until 2028, that's not decisive action. It's kicking the can down the road. So what will the Scottish Government do right now, not in 2 years' time, to support the house building of more homes, supporting the private sector and to tackle the appalling backlog in social housing?
First Minister.
Well, the first thing I'd say to Megan Gallagher is, of course, that Scotland has built more affordable homes per capita than compared to England or Wales in the recent years, substantially more. Indeed, since 2007, we've helped deliver more than 141,000 affordable homes. Now, I accept that's 45% more per head of population than in England and 69% more than in Wales. So we've got a strong track record, but there is more that needs to be done. In the immediate sense, we are investing money to tackle void properties, and we've got thousands of void properties coming back into use. We're putting money in place to acquire properties from the private sector so that more properties can be used in the affordable housing sector. And, of course, the investment programme that the government is setting out in the budget indicates long-term, stable funding for investment in housing for the years to come, and More Homes Scotland will accelerate the pace for delivery. That's what my government is prepared to do. We're prepared to put the resources in place. We're prepared to put the measures in place. I wonder if Megan Gallagher will support our budget to deliver that expenditure for housing in Scotland.
Maggie Chapman.
Thank you. Given the recent publication of Shelter's Dundee Housing Emergency Action Plan and the city's well-rehearsed issues with RAC in residential properties, will the First Minister comment on the fact that Dundee is yet to declare a housing emergency, which would allow us to all act together on the challenges that face Dundee in relation to housing and homelessness?
First Minister.
Obviously, we work very closely with Dundee City Council and with housing associations in the locality who deliver significantly in relation to the affordable housing agenda. Obviously, a decision about declaring a housing emergency in the City of Dundee is a matter for Dundee City Council. It's not for me to dictate to the Council. But what I can assure Maggie Chapman is of the resources and the support of the Scottish Government to advance on these issues, and we will continue to do so.
Question number 5, Liz Smith.
To ask the First Minister what action the Scottish Government is taking to improve transparency and accountability within NHS boards.
First Minister.
So transparency and accountability in our NHS is essential to maintaining public trust. We have strengthened expectations around leadership, information governance, record-keeping and decision-making across NHS boards. We have also reinforced assurance and escalation arrangements. There are very clear examples of this government taking action when concerns arise, and Liz Smith will be aware that we have escalated boards through these frameworks for a variety of different issues. These measures demonstrate our commitment to strong governance, transparency and accountability.
Liz Smith.
Not only are we witnessing the most appalling scandal in Greater Glasgow and Clyde, in NHS Tayside we have the destruction of 40 clinical logbooks in the El Jamel case, despite the issuing of Do Not Destroy notices, plus more revelations about serious blunders in jaw surgery. In NHS Forth Valley and in NHS Grampian, we have ongoing patient complaints about missing documents and non-compliance with statutory complaint procedures. These are all examples of the most serious failings of management within different health boards which are the direct responsibility of the Scottish Government. So will the First Minister finally accept that the cultural problem that he has identified in Greater Glasgow and Clyde is the exact same cultural problem that has existed within this government for years and which is preventing patients from getting to the truth?
First Minister. Thank you.
President Officer, the issues in relation to the conduct of healthcare are absolutely vital for individuals in our society, and the Government intervenes to ensure that on an ongoing basis NHS health boards are aware of their obligations to be candid and open with members of the public about their treatment, and where there are issues that are unacceptable, these are pursued and addressed either by the escalation of individual health boards for greater degrees of scrutiny, which health secretaries are prepared to undertake and to apply, and in certain circumstances, as in the case of the El Jamel case, we refer these issues to independent inquiries. And that is an indication of the fact that the Government believes there must be openness and transparency in the handling of these issues, and the assurance of the public about the safety and the effectiveness of public services must be pursued at all times.
Question number 6, Claire Hockey.
Thank you, Presiding Officer, and I remind Chamber of my register of interest to ask the First Minister how the Scottish Government's launch of walk-in GP clinics will support its work to bring down waiting times and ensure everyone gets the care they need. First Minister.
Presiding Officer, our new walk-in GP clinics will make it easier for people to access GP services without an appointment. We have listened to frustrations about the ATM rush, and our £36 million investment in the initial 15 clinics will help more people get the right care when they need it. These clinics will sit alongside the historic GP deal agreed last year, which delivers record investment in primary care and will complement existing GP services, NHS 24, community pharmacies and hospitals. Together, this reflects my clear focus on improving our NHS and delivering for the people of Scotland.
Claire Hockey.
I thank the First Minister for that answer. While Labour talks about privatisation and Reform wants to charge people for using the NHS, only the SNP is committed to defending Scotland's NHS and investing to improve it through bold new initiatives such as these GP walk-in centres.
Let's hear Ms Hockey. Thank you.
Under this government, we are clearly seeing progress in our NHS, and I, for one...
Colleagues, let's be courteous.
I, for one, want to thank our hard-working NHS staff for all they are doing. It seems unlike our Tory colleagues. Given Labour cannot bring themselves to do the same, can the First Minister perhaps remind our Labour colleagues what improvement we've seen under his leadership in the last year?
First Minister.
Presiding Officer, I join Claire Hockey in paying tribute to the hard-working staff of our National Health Service, whose dedication has made possible the improvements that we are seeing in Scotland's National Health Service.
I'm very keen that everyone gathered in the chamber can hear what's going on. First Minister.
Let me set out what improvements have been delivered in the National Health Service. Operation numbers are up, GP numbers are up, the number of nurses, midwives and dental consultants are up, long waits are down and down for 6 months in a row, outpatient waits are down, inpatient and day case waits are down, and the risk of dying from cancer in Scotland, is at the lowest rate on record. That is a record of delivery from this government for the National Health Service, and we intend to continue delivering for the people of Scotland.
Jackie Baillie.
Presiding Officer, the reality is the SNP are busted. We've seen today the fact that they keep from the public important information and pretend that they are cleaner than clean. But the Scottish Government promised 800 more GPs, but they failed to reach their target. And despite this promise, there are actually fewer whole-time equivalent GPs compared to a decade ago. And these GPs are seeing more patients, 1,700 patients now compared to 1,500 in 2013. Primary care is under incredible strain, and both the BMA and the Royal College have been critical of the walk-in centres, calling instead for the money to go to existing GP services. So can I ask the First Minister, how will he ensure that the walk-in centres are adequately staffed when there is not currently the case in local GP practices?
First Minister.
Well, Presiding Officer, just to reassure Jackie Baillie, GP numbers are going up under the watch of this government to make sure that we have in place the services that are required in our communities. And the government is going further. We're going further with GP walk-in centres to make sure there's even more access for members of the public. That's this government listening to the people and delivering on the National Health Service.
Thank you. We move to constituency and general supplementaries. I call David Torrance.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. This is an incredibly worrying time for the workforce at Westmorton, and urgent action is required. It's welcome that the SNP Scottish Government budget includes £9 million over 3 years to help staff and communities affected by a plant's closure. Can the First Minister say more about how this funding will be deployed? And does he agree that Anna Sarwar and Scottish Labour should be joining us in pressing the UK Government colleagues to support our energy sector, rather than letting their support for industry stop at the border?
First Minister.
Sir, I'm committed to ensuring that we do all that we can to support the workforce at Mossmorran, which is an incredibly difficult time for the workforce. We've engaged extensively with stakeholders to ensure that the funding that's available in the Scottish Government is prioritised to initially support the workers to transition to other employment opportunities and then support efforts to secure a new future for the site. The Deputy First Minister is providing the necessary leadership to drive this crucial work, and Scottish Enterprise have begun work to secure new investment and a future for the site. We are taking forward all of these measures, and an essential component is making sure that the Government's budget is supported. And I look forward to colleagues who have got an interest in supporting Mossmorran, supporting the Government's budget when it comes to Parliament for approval. Annie Wells.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Will the First Minister address the case of my constituent, a mother of 4 and a survivor of domestic abuse, whose confidential refuge address was disclosed to her abuser due to an admitted failure by the courts during the imposition of a non-harassment order? And as a direct consequence of this disclosure, my constituent and her children are now required to leave their women's aid accommodation under safeguarding protocols, despite having done nothing wrong and the court formally acknowledging fault. Given that this harm arose solely due to an error by the justice system, what action will the Scottish Government take to ensure my constituent and her children are provided with immediate, safe and suitable housing, and what steps will be taken to ensure no survivor of domestic abuse is ever placed at risk again due to such a safeguarding failure?
First Minister.
President, I'm very concerned to hear the details that Annie Wells has shared with Parliament today. The importance of protecting the privacy and the safety and security of the victims of domestic abuse is central to the justice system, and I acknowledge the point that Annie Wells has made, that the court system has acknowledged the error that is made, and I apologise to Annie Wells, to her constituent, for that error. It should not have happened. Obviously, there are many protocols and procedures in place to make sure it shouldn't happen, and it should not have happened. So I will take away the issue. If I understand Annie Wells has written to the Justice Secretary, we will ensure that that is given prompt attention to make sure that there is support and assistance in place to address what is an unacceptable incident.
Claire Baker.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Last year, the Weems Estate sold tenanted properties in West Weems and Denbeath to Torah Capital, who have now issued 30 households with eviction notices, with some being asked to vacate their properties by the 22nd of March. These are people who have been tenants of the estate for some 40 years, and this is an extremely worrying and stressful time for all the tenants. So can I ask the First Minister what discussions the Scottish Government have had with Fife Council, who are working at pace to try to find a solution, including the possibility of bringing some 30 properties into public sector ownership, and what financial support would they be able to offer if required?
First Minister.
The Housing Secretary is engaging with Fife Council about this question to try to find a solution for the individuals who are involved, and this will of course be a very anxious time for those individuals given the uncertainty about their housing arrangements. So that work is underway and that dialogue is proceeding, and I give Claire Baker the assurance that that will be pursued by the Housing Secretary. We are of course, as I said in my answer to Megan Gallagher earlier on, actively engaged in the acquisition of properties to bring stock into the public sector housing stock, to ensure that we've got measures in place to support families to obtain the correct and appropriate form of accommodation. So we will, there are obviously opportunities for us to engage constructively with Fife Council on that question, and I give Claire Baker the assurance that we'll do so, and the Housing Secretary will keep her updated.
Christine Graham.
Thank you very much, Presiding Officer. The recent successful prosecution case against the Hamiltons, part of the cruel puppy farm trade, concluded after a 5-year investigation by the SSPCA. 33 puppies were found in dreadful conditions. Now, this was taken as a summary action, and while I fully respect the independence of the prosecution service and the courts, I do have a concern that not sufficient of these actions, which often the source of serious organised crime, are brought under solemn procedure, because all that happened here was they got community service, banned from having a dog, more than one dog, for 5 years, Minor penalties in my book.
First Minister.
Obviously, I associate myself very much with the concerns that Christine Graham sets out about the illegal puppy trade and the harm that is caused to the welfare of dogs as a consequence. Obviously, decisions about prosecution matters are undertaken independently of the Government by the Crown and the Procurator Fiscal Service. And Christine Graham is an experienced solicitor and parliamentarian. She is familiar with that separation of responsibilities. And it would be wrong for me to comment on the decisions that are made of a prosecutorial nature. What I think is important is that all of these cases are fully and properly investigated and the Crown can come to their conclusions on these matters.
Alexander Stewart.
First Minister, an inspection at Forth Valley Royals Hospital Adult Mental Health Unit has uncovered significant concerns. Issues have been raised about patient support and protection at the hospital. Individuals who should have been under continuous observation were allowed to gain access to open spaces and even the roof. So what action can be put in place to ensure the safety of these vulnerable individuals?
First Minister.
The issues that are raised in the report raise serious concerns. For that reason, the Health Secretary and the Minister for Mental Health saw the leadership of Forth Valley Health Board at my request yesterday to make it abundantly clear that we expect the recommendations to be addressed, the performance to be improved, and ministers will hold the NHS Board to account for all of those issues.
Davy Russell.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. First Minister, I have been contacted by concerned local GPs at the sudden unexpected shortage of cocodamol in Lanarkshire. The First Minister should be aware that there are some 40,000 people are addicted to the medication and shortages will have consequences for everyone else in need of pain relief. Can he advise whether this is a short-term supply problem in Lanarkshire or is this a problem across the country, and what action will he take to ensure there is a continuing supply?
First Minister.
I'm not aware of a widespread issue with this, but we will explore the details of the situation in Lanarkshire and act to address any shortages. There is a well-established system of ensuring that pharmaceutical interventions are available across the country, and there may well be from time to time individual locality challenges, but we will take away the issue that Mr Russell has raised and explore what can be done to address it.
Kevin Stewart.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. The shadow of the UK Energy Profits Levy looms large over my area. Thanks to the Labour UK Government's tax on energy, reports this week have shown a slump in business confidence in the North East and warned that thousands of jobs in the energy sector are at risk, including in my constituency of Aberdeen Central. There's a reason the energy sector, academics, trade unions and charities are speaking with one voice in this issue, but the Labour UK Government continues to bury its head in the sand. In the face of this Westminster economic mismanagement, can the First Minister advise what steps his SNP government are taking to support our energy sector? And does he agree that the impact of sustained Westminster mismanagement clearly makes the case for why we need a fresh start with independence?
First Minister.
Presiding Officer, the issues that Kevin Stewart raises are relate to the balance that has got to be struck between the reductions in capacity in the oil and gas sector, which will be a product of being a mature basin, and the rise of alternatives in renewables. And a key part in that, a key factor in regulating that, is the ability to invest in the North Sea oil and gas sector. That is being hampered, as I have said to Parliament before, by the Energy Profits Levy, which is undermining investment decisions. So I assure Mr Stewart that the Government has made every effort to persuade the United Kingdom Government to change its stance on the Energy Profits Levy, because it is harming investment and sustainability of the economy in the north east of Scotland. Now, of course, we are taking forward in the budget some support for businesses, workers and communities. with more than £120 million already invested in the North East through our Just Transition Fund and the Energy Transition Fund. And of course there are further resources pledged in the budget, which is before Parliament to be approved. But I associate myself strongly with Mr Stewart's point that Scotland needs to be able to benefit from our energy wealth. It is not happening at the present moment, and the Fresh Start of Independence will deliver that for the people of Scotland.
Douglas Lumsden.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. This week, the Jobs Foundation released their paper called Cliff Edge, and it's a bleak read and reinforces what the Scottish Conservatives have been saying all along. We need to support the oil and gas sector until the transition to renewables is further developed. And in the North East, there is a jobs emergency. And in Westminster, we have the extremist Red Ed Miliband doing all he can to close the industry down. And in Holyrood, we have a First Minister who offers no support to oil and gas sector, and an Energy Minister in Jet Set, Gillian Martin, who is too busy racking up the air miles to release the much-awaited energy strategy. So when will the First Minister get off the fence, show some support to the oil and gas workers, stop demonising the industry, and finally back Campbell, Rosebank and Jack Daw?
First Minister.
I thought it was customary to actually listen to what's said in Parliament and perhaps adjust one's question to take into account what might be said. Because I've just confirmed to Mr Stewart that the Government believes the Energy Profits Levy is a real obstacle to the sustainability of the oil and gas sector in Scotland. And what I've done about that is I've raised that directly with the Prime Minister at the British Irish Council in December, as I have done on previous occasions. And also in our budget, we have committed previously support to the transition, to support workers in the training centres and the various other initiatives in the North East of Scotland. And there's more planned in the Government's budget. But what's Mr Lumsden going to do about that? He's going to vote against it, because he doesn't actually want to do the hard yards of supporting the workers in the oil and gas sector. Well, while Mr Lumsden postures and can't adjust his questions to take into account what I've said, I'll carry on delivering for the North East of Scotland.
Let's hear one of our colleagues, Emma Harper.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Children First have said that the whole family support announcement in the Scottish Budget will provide a lifeline to families who need help most, while Oxfam have said it will give families a better chance of making ends meet. Can the First Minister tell us more about the Scottish Government's plans to expand access to free after-school activities? How will that support its national mission to tackle poverty?
First Minister.
As I set out in some of my other answers, the Government is expanding the support that's available to help with the cost of living and to help with lifting families out of poverty. So the investment in the budget on the Extra Time programme, which complements the work that we're taking forward on breakfast clubs, is designed to ensure that families are supported with the assistance they require to move out of poverty. So we'll invest £2.5 million to expand the Extra Time programme in the Government's budget and ensure that, in partnership with the SFA, we work to assist families and ensure that there is provision in place to ensure that individuals are able to sustain their participation and engagement in employment. So it's part of a wraparound support that the Government is putting in place to deal with the cost of living challenges that families face.
Sarah Boyack.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Could the First Minister tell Parliament when community organisations will be informed about the transitional funding or bridging arrangements, given the immediate and severe impact of the ending of the Investing in Communities Fund, to prevent the collapse of vital local services? Because, First Minister, I've been made aware that Dr Bell's Community Centre, which supports over 600 families every year in Leith, will have to close their doors because of the abrupt withdrawal of this vital funding, leaving families without the vital support that the community centre provides. So could the First Minister today commit to listen to these vital organisations across Scotland facing collapse and give clarity and act now?
First Minister.
Well, I'm not sure if Sarah Boyack was in the chamber earlier on, but Richard Lockhead, the Minister, confirmed that there's an extension for 26-27 being delivered. So that's been confirmed to Parliament earlier on this afternoon.
And Kenneth Gibson.
Presiding Officer, in the last hour it's been revealed that the UK Government will not compensate WASPI women. Does the First Minister agree that Labour's U-turn on a U-turn in betraying WASPI women is a new low even for them?
To the extent of devolved responsibility.
I'm grateful to Mr Gibson for advising Parliament of the decision of the United Kingdom Government. I think this is deeply regrettable that there is no compensation going to be in place for the WASPI women. These women were promised in good faith that the Labour Party would address, when they got into government, this historic injustice, and it's just another example of the betrayal of individuals in this country by this Labour Government.
Thank you. That concludes First Minister's questions. The next item of business is a members' business debate in the name of Kenneth Gibson, and there will now be a short suspension to allow the Chamber and the gallery to leave.